Well, YouTube, I finally got back my internet. Guy in the back seat, DoomVeilerGames. This is not a discussion. This is actually an experiment that me, as well as a few of our buddies around here in Tampa, are going about. We're basically going to do something that we're going to call. I kind of came up with the name on the fly here, so guys, if you don't like it, get over it. At least for now. Um, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament of the Ages. Um, right now, the meta has gotten so stupid that I don't even want to really play. Um, it's not because I don't like the game. It's because there's crap out there. And, obviously we have 4 problem decks in the format right now. Maybe not, Mermail as much as these 3. But the problem here is that there's a lack of creativity in the game right now. The ban list is unbalanced. The cards out there are retarded. Konami made these rares, which was just silly. I called it, by the way, said that originally, and and everybody's like, no, they'll all be ulti, they'll all be ultra. And I said, there aren't enough slots for the amount of good cards in the set. Anyway, all that's aside. So essentially, we were saying, what would the top 4 decks of today's format do against, say, the top decks of other formats? And the top decks from other formats have to maintain their exact playstyle at the time, meaning that you kind of play a semi-traditional, pseudo-crazy, weird ban list. It's not necessarily like it's not a real ban list. It's basically like a player from 2009 walks into a room in today and plays whatever they're playing in their deck box legally against whatever the opponent has. And people say, oh, well, broken stuff, graceful charity, pot of greed, it's so good. Yeah, but at the same time, the card pool that they had access to was far less than what these 3 decks have access to at the moment, or 4 decks. So we kind of ran down, what would be the best decks of their time, and we've come up with 32 decks. 4 slots, by the way, go to our honorary 4 members here: Evilswarm, Mermail, Spellbooks or Prophecies, and Dragon Rulers. A lot of people are saying Dragon Rulers are the favorite, regardless of what meta they're playing, and it doesn't matter. They're that good. Personally, I think Spellbooks will have the edge just because they have so much capability, and because they're a modern deck, they don't have the same restrictions as all the other decks aside from the current ban list. But either way, we plan on doing all these duels eventually, but I figured I'd show you the decks that at the moment, will tell you if they get switched, because they might. Every deck listed here is subject to change based on, either comments posted below or based on, popular demand from the players in our area that basically say there's no real reason to include that. So each one of these was taken. It was either a tournament winning, aka like YCS World Championship, or a very impressive, I guess you could say, regional. It had to fall into one of those categories. It had to take first place, and that was one condition, or you were honorary, like, put in because that deck's style is consistent even by today's standards. So the first one is Tele-DAD. This is kind of what spurred the entire argument, was, could Dragon Rulers beat Tele-DAD in their prime? And honestly, I don't know. The next one is Lightsworn, full power. If you look at Lightsworn now, they don't have 3 Charge of Light Brigade. They don't have 3 Honests. And that is enough to mod their capabilities so much that they are a contender in this tournament. We have Chaos Dragons. Mind you, this is Chaos Dragons, at least the build that I found. At the moment, obviously, we're going to include Future Fusion, but at the moment, this is the build that I found is the one that has basically straight Chaos, no 5-headed or anything. Destiny Hero Plasma Control. Plasma control was a thing for a while, and it had different cards, so you have to give them it's either an honorary slot, like I said, or they won a major event, which I believe Plasma Control did at one point. I can't be sure, but these are the decks that basically we all voted together to make. Inzektors in their prime, meaning triple Hornet, triple Dragonfly, triple Centipede, you know, all the crap that nobody wanted to deal with, and the deck that won the last Worlds, if you don't remember. E-Heroes, I know that's vague, but essentially any build of E-Heroes that's ever done crazy well, because E-Heroes have always been a consistent deck, whether it's Omni Heroes, Destiny Heroes, whatever heroes, just straight E-Heroes all together in any form. We haven't really put together the deck yet, but E-Heroes, you know, in their prime, best format ever, you know, however you have to view it, they're in. Zombies. Now, people say zombies, not that big a deal. Mizuki's a card. So that's enough to say, you know, Mizuki got limited because of this deck. So, and Card of Safe Return got banned, and some other cards got banned. So just don't forget, you know, there are rogue decks in this, but these rogue decks are very impressive rogue decks that Konami saw fit to limit or ban the cards included in them. You see DD Assailant because Warrior Toolbox. This was a very good deck. Its whole engine was, you know, I always have an answer for whatever you put on the board. So Warrior Toolbox, great deck. And also, just as a note, before Priority was dismissed, those decks that played in the style where Priority was legal get to play with Priority. That is another rule, because you have to think there's cards nowadays that just crap on old decks, but those decks with Priority might have a bit of an edge. So I will say there's Priority on certain decks. We'll specify which ones get it eventually. Gravekeepers. This is personally, I think it was like my selection, because GKs did win a YCS. When Recruiter came out, they have an engine that works, and they have a disruption and lockdown feature that just decks sometimes can't get around. So GKs did get a slot. X-Sabers in their prime, basically when X-Sabers are like X-Sabers, I don't even know if they ever really lost their prime. They're just one of those decks that it can still, like, I believe it was YCS Miami this past year. They still did well. I think the guy like got in the top 16 or something without a side deck. So just saying, X-Sabers are still a threat out there, so they're included in this list. Demise King of Armageddon. Demise OTK was a thing. Advanced Ritual Art at 3. This deck just crapped on other decks so fast. And Demise was one of the few balanced OTKs out there where it's like you paid life points, but I don't know how well it'll fare with like Veiler being a card, Max C being a card. Will this actually, you know, compromise the deck's capability? That's how you have to think about it. TG, Stun or Agents, we aren't sure which one's better. I mean, Stun did win an event, but at the same time, right after it won the event, TG Agents became popular, and Striker got limited to 1, and so did Earth. So we haven't fully figured it out, but I know TGs are on the radar because they are so consistent. This is not Chaos Dragons. This is Disaster Dragon. Disaster Dragon was a deck that just could win so well. It's right after Eclipse. It's right after Red Eyes Wyvern came out. So like as I said, we will have deck lists of each one of these once we get onto the tournament. Dino-Rabbit, it is a thing. Rabbit with Prio is a pretty big deal. So because Prio was technically legal until recently. So you have to remember, like, Rabbit had Prio for a good minute. Blackwings in their full prime, triple Black Whirlwind, triple Gale, triple Kalute. You know, this deck was consistent, and Dark Strike Fighter was their ace. Infernities in their prime, they get the triple launcher combo. So how well will they fare? But remember, Void Ogre was not a card when they had 3 launchers. That's another rule, is that the cards that were printed after the cards were banned, you get to pick which deck. That's how you have to view it, and you'll see that in a second too. Machina Fortress, Machina OTK was a thing. It was a very impressive thing, and it could do very well in tournaments, and so well that people were literally citing double system down just because of that deck. Goat Control. Goat Control is revered as one of the most popular, most playable, most fun formats in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Goat Control gets the slot, hands down. No way this is not being included. Caius is here because Monarchs are consistent as balls. I'm sorry, the deck doesn't really die. It's always there. There's always a threat of a Monarch deck coming, so why not? You know, Monarchs need to be included. Jinzo Returner OTK. Jinzo basically was the linchpin, but didn't really like make the deck work entirely. He was just like, I'm on the field, your opponent really can't respond to anything that I play from now on because they can't use traps, and you would OTK with Chimera Tech, and it was just nutty. Six Samurais are Six Samurais. They're not, you know, ever really going to die as long as Gateway's legal. So they're in there. Dark Worlds, you know, modern Dark Worlds are very, very, very efficient at wrecking opponents. So they get the slot. Perfect Circle, that's a thing, and a lot of people don't know about it. And so Disc Commander is included on this little on your screen because Perfect Circle Monarchs or Perfect Circle anything is included on this. Now, what I mentioned earlier, Gladiator Beasts, it'll be one of two decks. It'll either be in their prime when they had triple Bestiari and the ability to spam Gizerus like nobody's business, or they can opt to have the one Bestiari and play Chariot, because Chariot was not legal or made when they had triple Bestiari. Tengu Plants, make Trish, make the Trish, make the Trish. Like, that's the whole plan with the deck, and you get to see it in its prime. Billy Break won 2 YCS in a row with it, so it gets the slot. Synchro Cat, it was a thing, and hopefully this little tournament will actually show people, you know, why decks are banned and why certain cards can't come back and what decks used to do. And the last two, wind-up carriers and maybe wind-ups, hand loops, exceed summon spam, just everything under the sun. This deck is so good. It's the first deck to make an exceed get banned in the history of the game. So think about it that way. So it gets a slot. And where would we be in a tournament of the ages without the deck that literally made people have an exodus from the game, where nobody played in tournaments at all for months because Chaos, Burn, Chaos whatever, Chaos anything, and Invasion of Chaos was so broken that there was nothing that an opponent could really do to stop the deck. So honestly, if I can hear your opinions downstairs in the comments, what deck do you think would win out of all of these? And we are going to do it in a Swiss style. There's going to be winner bracket, loser bracket. You lose 2, you're out. It doesn't matter who you're paired against. I don't care if you say, well, you know, Prophecies would have had a better matchup against this deck. It doesn't matter. If the deck's good enough, it needs to hold up. These are the best decks in the history of the game, plus the 4 that are currently the best 4 decks in the format. So we're going to find out who's the best, and once we're done, we will be able to crown whether or not our meta is so much more broken than everything else, and what can Konami do to fix it. As always, comment, rate, subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll have a link in the, not a link, but a actual, in the description I'll have a list of all of them, so for the lazy people that don't want to watch the video and hear my descriptions, go ahead. As always, DoomVeilerGames, comment, rate, subscribe. Have a nice day.